This is going to be one of those videos where I'm going to say things that nobody wants to hear, but we kind of need to hear it. There's two parts to this. One of it is going to be something that more of you are probably going to be happy with. The second half of it is going to be something that pretty much everybody watching this video is going to be upset with. Unless you have a philosopher mindset, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, I get that. Greed is something that we have lived with since the beginning of humans being on this planet, becoming sentient and starting to think that we want this or we want that. And it's very natural for we human beings to decide that enough is not enough and that we need to find something more. And we're always driving towards the next thing. So even when you finally make it to whatever goal that you have, you realize that that wasn't really enough. It's the it's the pursuit of the goal and making meaningful progress towards the goal that makes you feel successful, not achieving things, right? It's not the achievement that makes you feel alive. It's going after whatever it is that you're going after. And that's why rich people are never satisfied. That's why they're always trying to make their bank account bigger. It's why they're always going after this or that or trying to acquire power or whatever it is. It's because the real meaning in our lives is having a goal and going after it and making meaningful progress towards it, right? It's not enough that you have a goal. You have to have a goal and actually be moving towards it. That's when you feel the most alive. They say that retirement is the biggest killer of people, and the reason for that is because while you're working, you have something that you're working towards. You have something that you're doing. You're doing something with your life and you're making some kind of progress with it. That is a noble thing, and it is something that all of us want to do, and it is something that hyper successful people, that is a virtue that they have. The problem comes when they start achieving the kinds of goals that the rest of us could only dream about. And obviously, just because human nature is what it is, it's not enough for them. So they have to figure out what's the next big thing I can do. And that's how we start getting these massive companies who become super crazy, greedy, and are always trying to, put their hands into as many pockets as they possibly can because they achieved a certain level of success. They realized that achieving the goal wasn't enough, so they're chasing that feeling of I need to move to the next level. But at a certain point, moving to the next level means stepping on people to get there, and that's just the way that it works. So we have these massive companies who are doing their best to create monopolies and control situations. And the big one that I want to bring up is the platform that I'm using right now to talk to you and express ideas, YouTube. YouTube provides us with an excellent example of a system where they are victims of their own success to the point where it's never enough to just kind of get to the point where you are successful and making a decent amount of money and you're providing a service to lots and lots of people who are benefiting from that service. We need to make sure that our investors are making as much money as they possibly can. So now we're going to implement policies that make it so that we create as much dollar per whatever unit that they're using as possible. And we don't care how we do it. We don't care how inconveniencing it is to our customers. As long as the customers are going to continue to participate, we're going to keep ratcheting and ratcheting and ratcheting until we get to the point where we're making as much money as we possibly can. So one of the big reasons why YouTube is having a war with companies like Brave and other ad blocking softwares and things like that is because they want to sell you advertisements, or they don't want to sell you advertisements. They want to show you advertisements that they've sold to companies who buy advertising space from them so that the companies can get their brand out there and YouTube can make money by selling ad space. YouTube is a marketing company first and Google as a platform is a marketing company first, and whatever Google service you're using second, whatever it is, whether you're using the search engine, whether you're using YouTube, whether you're using any of their other things that Google owns, they are there to serve you ads first and whatever service that they're providing second. Now, I think most of us would be fine with that. I grew up in the cable era where we were paying for cable and still being served ads, and you just kind of accepted it as part of the way that you accepted it as part of what you had to deal with to get access to the really nice cable services and all of that kind of stuff. The difference between cable back in the day versus the way YouTube does ads now is that the number of ads that you're being served is way beyond anything you would have had to put up with on cable television or even just regular television back when that was a thing. you would get meaningful chunks of watching a video or watching a show or whatever it is, and then you'd have a short little ad break that had like, 2 or 3 minutes worth of commercials in it. But you wouldn't normally get more than like 3 or 4 an hour, which means you got a good 10 plus minutes of video time trying to watch whatever it was you were trying to watch. Now, in some instances, many of you might be getting that kind of experience from YouTube, but those of us who have been putting up with ads for a long time have seen that it used to be that way, and it's slowly getting more and more and more. And the biggest problem is if you're not watching long videos and you're watching shorter videos, you get an ad with every single video that you do. So the reason why ad blockers have become as popular as they are isn't just because people don't want to sit and watch ads, because obviously nobody wants to sit and watch ads. You want to watch the content you were trying to click. It's because YouTube has slowly grown more and more and more obnoxious with the ads that they're putting in, unskippable ads, ads that are irrelevant to anything you're interested in. And you spend a lot of time just waiting to get to the content that you're trying to watch, especially if you're trying to watch, videos that are less than a certain length, because when you start a video, you're going to get it. You're going to get an ad, and that's just the end of it. So, if YouTube took a little bit more of a moderate approach, if they charged more money to their clients, right? If they spent more time trying to charge more money to their clients rather than making the viewers have to deal with it, then, the ad experience could probably be a fair bit better for the viewer. But because you as the viewer are not the customer, that is not Google's priority, so they will never go out of their way to make your viewing experience any better when it comes to something that makes them money. And this is the kind of greed-centric policy-making decisions that cause many of our big corporations to become enemies of their customers, because you are not the primary concern. The customer, and for any public company, is not the primary concern. The customer is pretty much at the bottom of the list when it comes to the list of concerns that they have. As long as you continue to come in and pay for whatever it is that you're paying for, they don't give a crap about the actual experience that you're getting. They care about making their shareholders happy so that the shareholders will invest more money so that they can build their company bigger to get more money. And it's an endless, vicious cycle, and that's how it works. And that's all a function of greed, because these big companies want something and they want as much as they can get, and it's never enough to reach a point where it's like, okay, this is a good level, let's just try to keep it here. Let's do everything we can to try to keep it here. We'll make our customers happy, we'll make our viewers happy, we'll make our whatever happy, well, our shareholders, so we'll make our customers happy, our shareholders happy, our whatever happy, everybody, we're going to try to make everybody a nice big happy family here. It never stops like that, because we as human beings are just not built to sit and be okay with what we have. We are built to achieve something and then move on to the next thing, because we have this drive to keep moving forward. And that's just the way that it works. And unfortunately, when you get into the corporate structures of things and big companies and big rich people, that starts to turn into some pretty bad evil, because when you have all of this access to money and power and the ability to just make these massive changes in the world around you, almost always you're going to make the change that you decide is best for you, and you don't really care about what happens to anybody else. So that's the first half of the greed equation, and this is why I wanted to cover it first, because I know that most of you are not super rich corporate people, and you are not going to be super upset hearing me say that big companies typically tend to be greedy because of human nature. It's the way that it is. The second half of this particular topic has to do with you. Yeah, you, the person watching this video, whoever you are. If you are a human being and you are watching this video, you are just as bad as all the greedy corporations, because you want to do everything you can to avoid inconvenience. Now, I just spent all this time talking about how the YouTube ad system is obnoxious and ridiculous, but at the same time, they got to make the money somehow. And if they're not going to charge a membership fee, which they do. If they're going to offer the service for free, they're not going to require you to make a payment. Well, it costs money to run a company. As much as we don't want to hear that, it does cost a lot of money to run a mega corporation like Google. They have to figure out a way to make some kind of money off of you as a consumer, because you are the viewer. You are the person who is benefiting the most from this service, as being, just getting free access to videos and entertainment and all of these other things. So how do they get money off of you? By serving you ads. And we as viewers have always been trying to figure out a way to get around having to either pay for things. We want to get stuff for free. We don't want to have to put up with a cost for anything, whether it's having to shell money out or having to spend time watching ads or whatever other cost that you as the viewer or I don't want to say customer, because you as a viewer are not a customer, but you as a viewer or in any other situation, customer, you're always trying to get the cheapest price. You're always trying to get you want a deal even when the price being offered is pretty reasonable. Like that's how we are. I say you, but I say the proverbial you. I'm saying you as a person, me as a person, all of us human beings as people. We all do this. You walk into a store and you're like, I don't really want to pay. I don't really want to pay this much money for that. Right? Now, we've reached a point in our economy where you mostly just accept that, okay, this is what I have to pay for. But if you had the option, you would try to haggle it down. You just would. And ad blockers are exactly this haggling over price, right? That's exactly what the ad blocking economy system, whatever word you want to put on it, is. We want to be able to watch videos, and we don't want to have to put up with the obnoxious ad system that they have, regardless of the fact that those ads being served to us are what's paying for the platform that we're experiencing. We want to have our cake and we want to eat it too. So if you are the kind of person, I'm saying that you, every single person watching this video, is just as guilty as the corporations, because if it's not ad blockers, it's something in your life where you're trying to get more from whatever it is that you're trying to do than you really deserve based off of what would be fair. In a fair system, YouTube would provide a reasonable number of ads to make sure that they're able to pay for their stuff and provide a reasonable return to their shareholders. Not this endless growth crap that that they continue to try to do. They would provide a reasonable level of ads for a reasonable viewing experience, and we as the viewership would say, okay, we understand you need to make some money, so in exchange for this free service that you're providing us, we will sit and watch X number of ads per hour or something like that. That would be a win-win scenario where Google gets the money it needs to continue running its platform. The customers who are the people buying ad space are able to make more money because they're able to put ads out and get their brands out there, and we as the viewers get a free service at a reasonable cost of just watching a reasonable number of ads. That is the mentality that we all want, right? But nobody is willing to participate in the process. The company, Google, wants to make as much money as they can. And the people who are trying to buy advertising space don't want to pay a lot of money for the ads. And we as the viewers are also a part in the equation where we are to blame because we use ad blockers, which makes it so that the ad spots that would have been served to us to make Google some money so that they can continue providing us with a service don't get shown. They don't count as ad revenue, and the content creators like me don't get paid. Google doesn't get paid. That's just how it works. So the biggest issue that we have when it comes to trying, I'm using all of this, everything I've talked about right now, I'm using it as an example of how we have a systemic problem as human beings. It's part of our human nature that causes us to go through these periods of strife because we're so focused on what we want that we don't think about how the things that we're doing are negatively affecting the people around us. The housing collapse of 2008 was a direct result of companies who became so greedy that all they cared about was make our number go up, make our number go up, make our number go up. And then what happened when it all fell apart? They knew it was coming. They pulled out right before the end of it, and lots of people made lots of money, and the rest of everybody else got kicked in the face. And that's just the way that it was, right? But it's all the same thing. The companies that were providing those loans that caused this to happen only cared about, I want to make more money, I want to make more money, I know I shouldn't be lending to these people, but I want to make more money, right? The investors in the companies who were only concerned about making more money looked the other way. They knew what was going on, but they looked the other way. And then the people getting the loans, right? They knew they had no business getting a home loan. They weren't in a position to get a home loan. They should never have even been looked at to get a home loan. But they saw an opportunity to get something for much cheaper than they otherwise would have been able to. Like they were looking to get something more than they otherwise would have been able to, knowing that they really should not have, allowing themselves to be tricked into believing that they could somehow afford it. And all parties involved, were playing the greed game. The company selling the loan wanted money, the shareholders were wanting money, and the people buying the houses were trying to get a house that they knew they couldn't afford, but hey, there's a loan out there for me, so I'm going to try to get it. I don't care about the consequences. I'm just going to get mine. We all live this way. You yourself may not live this way 100% of the time, but it does happen. If you look back on your life and you think about the things that you've done in the past, you will see instances of doing things that you did it because you wanted it for you, not because it was the right thing, and you probably didn't even care that it hurt somebody else when you did it. And when you have millions and billions of people on a planet who all do that, this is why we have the problems that we have. And until we can start creating a coherent message that spreads amongst a bunch of people across the entire human spectrum, that thinking that way only ends up hurting us all in the end, right? Like you specifically may not get hurt, but the human species as a whole gets hurt every time we do this. And until we can convince enough people to care about that enough to stop the people who don't care, and I know that was a very convoluted way of saying that. There need to be enough people who care to stop the people who don't care. And the only way that can happen is if we educate ourselves on human nature, what it is, what it's not, and how you combat all of that. Because the only way you can do that is by talking about it, seeing what other people are doing, realizing that it's a systemic problem that never goes away. It's been here from the beginning. And then choosing not to behave that way as much as you possibly can. Which means what? Well, you as a viewer, you don't have very much power, right? You can either continue doing things like using ad blocker, which we all will. It's just the way that it is, because Google's not going to change their mind, so we're not going to suffer by changing our minds. And why should we have to make the sacrifice if Google's just going to keep pushing more and more and more and more? There is no real solution. It is only until we are all able to come together as a bigger group of people to go after Google to make them change their minds on the way that they're doing things, to make our government step in and rein in this shareholder first mentality that is by law required by companies to do, right? We have laws in place that require public companies to put their shareholders' needs first. And that's all that does is encourage greed. And until we change our mentality and our legal system about these things, it's just going to keep being this endless cycle of greed upon greed upon greed that ends up killing us all. So that's all I really wanted to say. Hopefully all of that made some kind of sense. None of us is innocent in this process. We all participate in it in one way or another. It may not be with the specific examples I gave, but somewhere in your life, you're trying to get something for nothing. Or you're just trying to get more than you deserve. And that's just the way that it is. And until we stop trying to do that, it's just going to be this vicious cycle. So thanks for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe to help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers, and I'll see you for the next one.